Hello, gang. What's happening? Welcome back to Sundays. It is me, Slow Fuse, Jason, and the wonderful unicorn Jen taking Mike's chair. So she actually gets to be on the stream twice today because the unicorn's also down below.
Yes.
So I feel like we're getting overrun with unicorns.
And I have my unicorn slippers on.
Oh my God, I wish you guys. I wish we need foot cam, but Twitch would kick us off. But like literally, foot cam would be the thing. Oh my God, look at these things. Look at her shiny unicorn slippers. Oh my God.
Yay.
We need foot cam. Somebody go and ask Twitch if we can get
It's
foot
not actually
cam.
showing my feet if I have my slippers on.
I think that's still a foot fetish thing,
Really?
even in shoes. Yeah, I think there's a whole weird shoe thing that
Slipper
happens.
fetish?
Slipper I don't know what it is. Welcome, guys. Thank you for joining us again on Sunday. We are going to have a really cool show for you in store for you in store for you. Whatever. We're going to have some cool things today. We've got Nick and Walker from Red Republic Games waiting in the wings to do an interview about all of the Arena Rec stuff that you've seen us dealing with the last couple of weeks. That should be a lot of fun. We're going to do that right out of the gates. Right after we get done interviewing them, we are going to go through and give our review, our definitive review after our 2 weeks of beating Arena Rex around the head and ears. And you'll get to see Jen's thoughts and my thoughts on that. That'll be good. And then we'll go into the normal show routine. We'll do a little bit of discussion over the week's past events, what's coming up on the calendar. And then we've got some good hobby love to show you at the end of the show with regards to all the community members that have taken part in our Arena Rex paint along. So good stuff. Welcome, guys. Thanks for hanging out with us. Glad to see everybody back. If you're catching us on YouTube after the fact, make sure to put aside some time on Sundays at noon Pacific to join us live. All of this happens live in your living room on Sundays, so always good fun to have you guys here. Now, just to set up some initial rules for our interview going forward, Nick and Walker have been kind enough to join us. We'll pop them up here momentarily. We would like for you guys, as we ask them questions, to come up with questions of your own that you would like to ask them. Let's have some interactivity, but we're going to hold all that for the end. You can ask your questions anytime you want. Please put @Gentastic in the chat, Gentastic8, in the chat so that it pops up on Jen's screen and alerts her to any of the questions that you want. Don't put Slow Fuse. She'll look for Slow Fuse too, but if you can, remember to put @Gentastic8 in chat. Jen will catch all those questions, and then at the end, we'll go through and ask your questions back to the developers so you can get anything answered that we haven't touched on. So please use this opportunity to ask anything you would like. Whether or not they like broccoli is always a good question, right? If they fold or wad. Always a good question. Always a good question. All right, so without further ado, to keep them not waiting, let's go over and grab Walker and Nick. All right, guys. How you doing? You are live on the show.
Breeches with delight.
All right, we got a good group of people in here. We've laid out the rules for them and how the interview is going to go, guys. But, gang, I'd like to introduce you to Walker on the left of your screen there and Nick on the right. Nick has been joining us during the paint along, and Walker has been watching after the fact, so it's good to have them involved. And we're going to start right out of the gates, guys. We'd like to just have you tell us a little bit about Red Republic. How you guys came to be, what the idea was, kind of the history on what, why, where, and how it all started, if you would.
You want me to?
No pressure.
No, I like it. Thank you. I got a little feedback on my end from I can hear myself.
Okay, yeah, you can hear yourself.
We decided to make a minis game after basically playing everyone that existed.
Which was possible.
You're hearing feedback on your end?
Now it's like,
Yep, still getting it.
yeah.
All right, hang on. All right, try for us now.
So we decided it'd be a cool idea to make a few miniatures,
Are you still getting feedback?
and then of course that leads into making a game.
Still getting feedback, yeah.
I wonder why they're getting feedback. All this worked 5 minutes ago, didn't it? Hang on just a second. Let me move you guys over to another output. Sorry, guys, for the technical issues. All right. How about now?
Uh,
Only one way to find out.
let's see. Yeah, it works.
Yeah, it
All
seems good.
right. Cool.
All right. All right. Let's do that.
We've been playing minis since I can remember.
Yeah.
And I was getting to a time in my life where I was about to have a kid and didn't have quite so much time to play games, and was getting tired of all the homework you'd have to do to kind of prep to play challenging tournament-focused games. And so we could make something that's just meant for us to have quick, fun games. And we saw that nobody really made a Gladiator minis game that we were into, and decided that we liked.
Or many Gladiator minis at all.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I was going to say, you guys picked
So
a
we
really
decided-
cool kind of genre, because there's not a lot out there other than maybe a character here and there in a fantasy game that kind of represented that Greco-Roman feel, but nothing that was really centered around it. I think that's great.
Yeah, that Spartacus TV show was on at the time too, and I fell heavy into that and thought it was pretty neat.
Influences
And
come from everywhere. That's good. So what other games
Absolutely.
did you play? It's interesting to hear you talk about, playing all types of miniature games. And then, so I guess the real question is here is to tap into what you just said, as far as the depth of like learning required for every rule set, and that then you're saying drove you to want to kind of pare it down and give somebody the opportunity to play with miniatures that is more palatable, easier. Was that really the focus?
I'm sorry, what was that last part of your?
Oh, just to make it easier for people to pick up, it sounds like, is what you were trying to do.
Yeah, I mean, whether you had never played a minis game or you had.
3 other rule sets in your brain.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
There's only so much space up in your brain here for minis rules, and we thought it would be cool to make sure ours was super streamlined. And as soon as you sort of understood the rules, you wouldn't need to keep referring to them all the time. That's why our rule book is super small.
Oh yeah.
You're not really meant to kind of have to refer to it all the time.
This is not very daunting. I mean, I'm going to tell you. When I first picked up the rule book, and number one, it's 6x6. People have been seeing it on stream, and then you open it up and you look through it and you say, wow, I mean, legitimately, there's only 49 or 50. There's 50 pages in it. That's unheard of. And out of the 50, the first 19, nearly half of the book is spent on telling awesome stories about the world that it revolves within. So there's really only 30 pages of rules in here, and it's really well outlined. So good job on that. I'm glad to hear that there are companies out there that want to develop games that are easier to find and get into, because we're kind of missing that right now, I think. So.
But you hope to do something different. I'm sure we did, anyways. Mm-hmm. There's no shortage of very complicated games, and they're fun for how complicated they are. But it's tough to convince someone, hey, stop playing 40K because you should play the game that we made. Instead we get to be kind of like an aperitif. You know what I mean? Like just another thing that you can add to your game.
No, I think that's great, and I think that having that realization will only help, because you're not trying to replace. And we talk about that all the time here with regards to companies that try to think they're going to unseat the giants, and how difficult that is if you don't have funds and time and all of the, it doesn't matter how good your game is, right? There's a lot of emotional attachment to those miniatures in the closet, and if somebody's got thousands of them, it's tough to break. So tell us a little bit about the timeline from the point where you guys sat down and had this idea. How long of a development process was it before you actually had miniatures and were rolling dice and showing people?
We did our Kickstarter about 4.5 years ago. We were probably working on the game and designs for the minis, probably 2 years back from that started.
Yeah.
So at the time of the Kickstarter, we had sort of a solid idea for what we wanted the game to be. We hadn't really built out all the systems yet, and we had a lot of the characters that we knew we wanted to be in the game. And we did a rules beta about probably 8 months after the Kickstarter closed. And and let that run pretty much indefinitely as far as anybody else could tell. But then we kind of took a look at the feedback from that. But even at the beta stage, a lot of the core systems were pretty well implemented at that time. And then the rulebook came out probably another 6-8 months after that, I think.
Yeah,
when we first did our first wave of shipping, we had some rule books in there, and that was when it was sort of born as a real thing into the world.
Very cool.
When we first started working on it, we just kind of made it our hobby to work on the game. So instead of doing whatever else we do, play board games, card games, mini games, we'd get together and we'd talk about Arena Rex or whatever it was called at the time, because the name didn't come for a year at least.
Yep.
But we just bootstrapped it. We get together a couple times a week. Yeah, we'd have whiteboards and notebooks full of ideas that are fun to look at now. And it's difficult to convince anyone to sculpt a mini for us because at the time digital sculpting was kind of just getting started, and it wasn't as good as it is now. And we thought it'd be really, you could kind of see that the writing was on the wall, like everything's going to be done digitally very, very soon. And we thought, oh, this would be cool. Let's just do our thing completely traditionally sculpted. So that took convincing someone that we were serious about doing this. And Sebastian Archer, a sculptor out of Australia, was the first one to be like, yeah, it looks like what you're doing is cool. And he did our Aquila sculpt for us. It was the first one we ever had made. And at that moment, I was like positive that everything was going to go awesome.
Yeah, he really set the tone for the whole project in terms of the art moving from there forward. We've been really lucky to work with some fantastic artists throughout the process, from concept through to sculpt through to painting, and that's really been a big boon for us as well.
Well, I know all the artwork is fantastic, from the 2D drawn and hand painted, whether it's digital paintings, all of the sketching, kind of the on the story cards for the characters. It's all very cohesive and narrative, which is awesome. And I think that then following through to the miniatures the way you guys have done is spot on, fantastic. I love the fact that every miniature in the game seems to have a personality, and that's reflected in everything you do. But it brings up a good question. It sounds like you didn't have a lot of those art resources in-house to start. Is that something that you knew from the get-go? Obviously sculpting, you knew you were going to have to go find third party, but for the concept drawings and all of that, was that something that you did, or was that also in your head and you had to reach out and find people to bring that to life?
I have a art and design background, so I did the most of the character designs are done by me. We've never released a sketch that I've done because I don't draw people. Drawing a hand is like the most difficult thing you can do. Yep. I design all the armor, weapons, things like that, and we send that off to an illustrator to kind of turn that into something that would be sort of invigorating to look at.
Okay, cool.
If you get my meaning.
Definitely. And since your initial findings with the sculpting, have you had more people now obviously wanting to come on board? From the looks of it, it looks like you have multiple sculptors, not to detract from any single one of them, but I can see tiny nuances to each of the models and the way that musculature is done and the way that armor is done that actually, again, I think lends to the personality of the individual models. And it seems like either you've got a fantastic single point sculptor who has the ability to change his style a lot, or you've got a lot of really cool people involved.
Well, one of the good things about doing a Kickstarter and being forced to get 20 minis done as quickly as possible is that we had to convince as many sculptors as possible to work with us. And then over the course of the year, we got to see which ones we thought had really good outcomes in terms of the work and which ones were fun to work with and were on time and everything. So we got to kind of say, okay, these guys were always on time and the work turned out awesome and they were good at X, Y, and Z. So we have a group of people we really like to use. We have some people that we like to use for animals, some people we like to use for bigger models, and so on.
Mm-hmm. How does that? How much of a struggle is that to manage at your end? Without going too much into your business side of it, but do you find that managing the third party creative is that what paces your timeline more than anything at this point?
Yes, but I don't think that's a problem.
It's a component of it
Yeah.
for sure. But it's in line with where our timeline would pretty much be anyway.
Yeah.
So it's not, it's now down to a point where it's much smoother than it was during the Kickstarter
Yeah,
for
sure.
sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's the pace we have set now tends to line up with the availability that we have with our artists pretty well, and we have enough of kind of a runway on a lot of things that we can really give people warning, say, hey, we're going to want a couple of sculpts in the next couple of months, or starting in 6 months, or starting in a year, or whatever, and kind of block that time out appropriately. And it's not quite as much of a scramble as it was in the early days, so
Good.
That helps.
Good. Well, talk to us a little bit about the overall idea of the game is very easy to get, and I think that's great. The Greco-Roman Colosseum gladiatorial fighting, I think, is something that can find an aspect for lots of people that they can enjoy, whether they're historic buffs or not, is pretty irrelevant. You've got enough sort of mysticism in the game with some of the creatures, and then enough reality in the game because there isn't a whole lot of I don't know how to put it. There's just big dudes and people smacking each other and throwing each other in pits, and it makes sense. So where do you see that fundamental idea of the game evolving? Do we start to see this same combat system in other genres of fighting, medieval, blah, 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 or are you firmly rooted in the gladiatorial? Obviously the name tends to think that we're firmly rooted in the gladiatorial, but give us an idea, like a glimpse into the future for Red Republic.
Yeah, so I think Arena Rex is pretty firmly rooted in what it is as far as the combat system and what themes you'll see there. We too intend to sort of broaden the world out a bit more. So you'll start seeing models and factions from further abroad over time. But the core of the game is pretty solidly set. So there's nothing, too major that's going to change there on a core rule set level. Of course, as we introduce new models, they'll have hopefully some new and different rules, different ways to play with the existing rule set that we have, and kind of, the best thing about special rules is that they break rules. So that's kind of where we do that is with the models rather than with the core rules in terms of having a lot of exceptions there. There's a couple of projects that we have talked about that are not Arena Rex. We don't have anything in particular to really share there, but Arena Rex is very zoomed in. We're thinking about maybe something that's a bit more zoomed out and sort of totally different in terms of theme. We're just going to kind of explore whatever seems fun to us at the time is where we're going to focus kind of our development energy. We'll certainly be continuing to support Arena Rex even if we do start another major release. That's something that is always going to be important to us, is continuing with Arena Rex. But there's certainly more to come, not in the immediate future, but in the future. So.
Yeah, I always tell people who are just meeting us at the cons and asking all kinds of questions about the game and how long have you been around? I've never seen this. And I always say like, well, we've got like a 10-year plan for Arena Rex that has an ellipsis at the end of it. So we're not planning to stop working on that anytime soon.
Mm-hmm.
We've got, as Walker said, we've got characters from further around to further afield to introduce into the game.
Mm-hmm.
And we've also got on our blackboard some ideas about different ways to explore the world of Arena Rex.
Well, I think I just personally, as I look at it, and if I were an outsider looking in, I find it to be one of the most intriguing with regards to its kind of balance between historic recognition, but not based on, you know, historic battles, right? When I go and I see historic games that are based on Waterloo, or, you know, here I'm going to go play, you know, Bolt Action for the Battle of the Bulge. And so those, I think you mentioned zoomed in. I love that term. I'm going to steal it from you. I think that there's a way with historics to be so zoomed in, right, that you don't have an ability to zoom out. And so you kind of get claustrophobic or backed into a corner at some point, replaying the same narrative over and over. But I really like the way Arena Rex has got it set to where I can have the joy of that, you know, Iliad, Odyssey era of the world, but because it's not specific to events, that I get to create my own narrative within it. And so, and that's kind of why I push that question, because I feel like it has lifespan beyond just a time frame. So I think that's really good that you guys are looking at it as such. And you can tell that there's a lot of effort put into that to keep it flexible enough with the, you know, we played our game with the Morituri, the Egyptian death cult, I think you guys call it. And of course she whooped my butt with them. And so I'm very angry about that. But it was nice to see that, you know, the ability to include other factions, whether they be historically accurate or not, I don't think even makes any sense to me. I don't think I find myself caring, as long as the models keep being as cool as they are. So you did a Kickstarter in order to get here. And we talk a lot about Kickstarters here on the show with regards to what we see new coming out, how things are being handled. Obviously, the crowd at large has varying dislike for Kickstarter, depending on which end of the success, failure, teeter-totter they've been on. How is it for you? Just the kind of broad stroke of the experience. Is it something you plan on using further if and when you do release another game? Obviously it was successful. You're here, we're talking to you when we love the game, so you're making inroads with that. But give us some feel, just how it all went down and your overall interpretation of how that business model works.
It's funny, we were just sort of talking about that last night. The Kickstarter that we did was I would describe as a harrowing experience. We had not planned for quite the success that it had generated, and luckily we were able to kind of catch up to that in many ways, and just sort of burn some midnight oil and get it to where it needed to be to meet some expectations. But definitely, if we do a Kickstarter in the future, it will be very different. And
just in terms of our own preparation.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
I always tell people I slept maybe an hour a night for 35 days or whatever during a Kickstarter, and I wasn't expecting that at all.
Yeah, no, it was
I had no idea. I mean, I wouldn't trade it away.
Certainly not.
Yeah.
No, yeah.
That we've
certainly learned a lot from it.
Yeah. I can imagine. I mean, we've talked to multiple people.
It's possible. It's possible that we could go back to Kickstarter for future projects, but I think the very shape of Kickstarter has changed so much since we ran our initial campaign that it would have to be different in order to be successful. And I think that the combination of that plus what we learned from the original one would make for a very different sort of experience throughout. So.
Good to hear. And obviously, since meeting you guys at Adepticon, that was my first face-to-face with you, and then dealing with you over the time, seeing the professionalism with which you handle yourselves, the idea you've got, we only can wish you the best with anything that you do. The miniatures, the game itself, as people want to find it, what's going on behind the scenes to make that easier to allow this to kind of reach out and expand into more homes?
Well, we're doing that right now, aren't we?
Yeah.
That's
well, that wasn't meant to be a plug for us, but I guess that's.
I mean, when we met you at Adepticon, we were like, yeah, this is the sort of stuff we should be doing more of. So let's definitely get together with these guys and see what they're all about. And I, by the way, I'm going to take a little side and say I love doing the painting tutorial. We can talk a little bit more about that later. I learned quite a lot watching the early Tribune stuff.
Awesome.
But yeah, when we finished our Kickstarter, it was kind of like waking up after a 2 or 3 year coma And then we're like, so what do we do now?
Yeah.
And the first thing was we learned that conventions are just the greatest thing for a company like ours.
Mm-hmm.
So when we go to Adepticon, when we go to Gen Con and some of the others, it's a great place to get out, like to be able to really present what Arena Rex is and have our great big display and bring people over. And like I said, we meet so many people that are like, I've never heard of this. And I always ask, well, where would you have heard of it, by the way?
Yeah.
So we can go be noisy there.
That's a great question.
A lot of people are discovering minis games on Reddit, and things like that. I mean, and I think that along with expanding our con schedule, we're going to more a year. We're going to be doing more, face-to-face stuff like this.
No, that's good. We, as I guess it's funny to say as big as our industry is, but it is big for a kind of cottage or niche industry. It is big, and it's getting bigger, and it's attracting attention from people who have, are larger in the toy business and things of that nature. So we're seeing growth year over year, I think. But it's so interesting that when we think about how to approach and find ways to reach out to people, you can't just go get a commercial on NBC. Not that anybody has the funds to do that, but you're just not going to put a TV commercial out there and say, hey, check it out. After you're done with this, drug for your prostate that we just advertised, now you're going to go play with miniature games, right? It's just not a world that reaches it. So finding ways to do it through social media, I think you guys are doing a great job. I can see there's a very voracious community on Facebook. The people that are talking about Arena Rex are very positive about Arena Rex. I think the community members here that maybe saw it for the first time during the paint-along when we were doing the Tribune, or tuned in last Sunday and saw the game that Jen and I played, lots of questions generated off of that, lots of attention, and now I think it's like, okay, where can we get our hands on it? And of course, your store, we've directed them there. I think you guys are doing a great job of that. And we look forward to seeing, more products there. So kudos on the drive that you're doing. And as it moves on in the future, I can only hope to see more and more from you guys. The paint-along, as you mentioned, I think was great. We love doing it. The miniature was fantastic. Again, thank you guys for providing the Tribune prior to its release even, so that we could get it in people's hands. I know that the viewers really loved it. We had great feedback. Later in the show, we'll be showing off more of even Nick's work. Nick, as Uglove in chat on Twitch, was painting along with us, and we'll be showing that at the end of the show here for some pictures and stuff, and we look forward to doing even more of that. So I guess, in closing, for me at least, before we get to chat, does chat have questions that they've asked?
Not really.
Not a lot coming back from chat? Have we literally asked these guys everything you want to know about Arena Rex, guys?
Maybe they thought they were supposed to wait until the end.
Oh, if they thought they were supposed to wait. But feel free, ask your questions in chat. Make sure to type @Gentastic8 so that she can see them. And we want to be able to ask while we've got Walker and Nick here any questions you might have. Again, you can ask them if they like broccoli. We like to you can get down and dirty and personal here. We don't care. So that's come up with stuff. No broccoli. We're going to stay away from greens. We're meat and potatoes, guys. As far as like when you go in and start developing in the game for your factions, because you say you're going to be adding some factions here and there, do you do it as a group effort? Do people get to come in one by one and have, and I guess this also begs the question of how large is your development group, and is everybody, because the game feels like it has a lot of love in it. I don't know how to really define that, but when you see a game that has so much character per model and the way they fit into the rules, it feels like the team has got a bunch of people there that are probably tossing ideas against the wall. So kind of help us understand that whole development process. Let's say you guys were sitting down today to add in next faction. Kind of give us an insider's view on how that process works.
We spent the last 3 months doing just that.
Yep.
And we'll meet and we'll go out to dinner and we'll just kind of start hashing stuff out. It's mostly arguments. I mean, we're basically like wrestling with one another, trying to in the nicest possible way be like, this is what I'm trying to get across to you.
Yeah, we all kind of have the hooks that sink into our own brains. And it may actually seem like we have a bigger development group than we have. We just all have very complementary interests. And so being able to kind of say, okay, well, that caught your attention, and now I'm building on that, and it's catching my attention in this way, and let's add this layer to it and come back and add another layer that you've now thought of. That really is kind of, I wouldn't even say the core of our process. I would say that is our process.
Yeah. We know we have another friend, Frank, who is often at the cons with us, working on new minis with us, and we all three of us know each of our sort of weirdnesses, each of our proclivities. So like we can call each other out on like, you're just being yourself. You're just being super weird. So we'll table that idea.
One of those smile and nod situations where you're just like, yeah, that'll happen.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. And like I said, you can, and I know it's weird. You can tell when there is I mentioned it as a love for the game. When you have a hobbyist that makes a product that then is used by hobbyists, you can get a different feel than when you just get a company making a product to sell to consumers. Does that make sense? And so good on you for whatever you're doing in your development process. Don't change it. Don't change it, because it has a good feel to all of us here at the other end. So that's good stuff. What do we got over here, Jed?
It's very fun for us to work in what we do.
Ray Silver wants to know if there's any possibility of other parts of Greek or Nordic myths entering Arena Rex, like a Minotaur.
A Minotaur specifically. I feel like that might be a thing.
The answer to the general question is yes, very much. The answer to the specific question is one of those points that we always bounce back and forth. We already sort of have two.
Yeah, that's Walker's position. Mine is that we need a Minotaur. So Walker insists that our bull is a bull. And
now you're trying to turn this around on me.
You
but anyway, so we've got the Bull Rider, which was originally kind of the concept of union of man and bull, and then we've got Urian, who's got those big horns on his helmet. Was originally a character that started out as sort of like, well, what if we did a guy that sort of just looks like a bull, and then several iterations later that turned into Urian. So, I mean, maybe, as long as we can make it different from everything else that we've done and kind of unique and flavorful, it's something that is definitely at least not far from the table, if not on it. Mm-hmm. And there are other things from those two cultures that we definitely intend to bring in. I would say in the shorter term.
Yeah, I mean, it is possible that in the future something like a Minotaur would exist in Arena Rex, but I always feel like we have a successful design when we have something that looks like it could have convinced someone it was a Minotaur and could have inspired the stories that we know. So rather than making something that you immediately recognize as a Minotaur, the longer you look at it, the more the character and the design of the miniature and the art tells the story, and you think, oh, maybe that's why people would have thought there was a man-bull thing.
See, I love that. I mean, that appeals to my sense of wonder almost more than just the literal bull on two legs. So yeah, good thought. Yeah, I like the idea that we talk about a lot. If you watch like Ancient Aliens and things like that, right? You get those shows that are talking about, okay, so what is this thing we're seeing? And people have cave drawings of whatever it is, and it could very well have been a dude in a mask. It could have very well been whatever you want. So I think that's wonderful. That's a great. Now that you've said that and it's rooted in my brain, I have a totally different feel for all of it. That's good.
What else? Yep. Ancient Aliens is something that I fall asleep watching very often. It's so
we would get along well, you and I.
Ridiculous. It just lulls me to sleep.
Any plans of a campaign system with persistent tracking or a bidding system to gear up your warband?
A la Mordheim.
Another thing we were talking about last night.
Yep.
Yeah, so some of that may come up in Arena Rex. It may come up in other places. it's definitely something that and are trying to find a way, I would say, to make it our own, and to make it really fit with Arena Rex, and not just be sort of an off the shelf campaign that feels like it was grabbed from somewhere else and ported into our world. So
when we get together and do our design talks about characters for Arena Rex to kind of keep our releases going, there's always a little bit of time afterwards where we start discussing our different ideas for the campaign system and how that's been sitting with us. And when I talked about we'll give you some different ways to explore the world that we've created in Arena Rex rather than just being in the arena. I think that's sort of a direction that we're thinking about now for a campaign system.
Well, I think it's
So
definitely
whether it's a
got a good foundation
product,
for it because of each of the individual characters. You don't just have foot troops. You don't just have archers and swordsmen, and everybody has a name. Everybody has abilities associated with their backstory. I think it's perfect. I think that would be great.
Got just a couple comments about how it sounds like people would like to see more Nordic and Viking themed miniatures.
Vikings. Throw Vikings in the arena. Let's do it.
That also came from Viking Teabagger.
Oh, of course. A user named Viking wants to see more Vikings. Wouldn't have thought it, Viking.
Splinter MD would like to know if we'll be seeing a 2D terrain pack for traps, etc.
Oh. I love these looks we're getting. I love these looks. It's like we were there in their meeting last night, and we're just like,
they listening?
I swear these guys are in Austin, Texas. We're way too far. Jen and I were drinking way too much adult beverages last night.
Entirely unscripted.
Our starter sets, like one of the most difficult parts of Arena Rex for me was that the game really relies on having pits, and nobody wants to cut a hole in their kitchen table or game tables. So we started selling pit
The
cards.
person who wants to cut the hole in the kitchen table is not the person who's allowed to cut the hole in the kitchen table.
That's right.
Yeah, we have pit cards.
So our starters all come with a pit to make it easy. Now, that's a postcard.
Yeah.
But we're talking a lot about developing some, maybe I walked around Gen Con and saw some really cool sort of small neoprene pieces. So you'll probably see us move into doing things like that for pits, perhaps with different themes for each faction and things like that. And terrain is something that I think that we are going to start, whether we produce it or not, we're going to start developing stuff like that, because when people come to our booth and they say, hey, what do I need to start playing? We say, well, just get a couple starters for you and your buddy and a lion. And then we sell this arena mat you can roll out. Well, I'd really love to be able to also say, and here's a box of a bunch of terrain that you drop on there, and you don't need anything else to play the game.
Mm-hmm.
No, that's good. One of the things.
My hesitation on that is whether it's 2D or 3D.
Right.
But definitely there's some stuff that we're planning to somehow get into the world.
No, that's good. I mean, it has the benefit as a game of not requiring a ton of terrain, but the terrain is so important. So, as we were just, Mats by Mars is one of our channel partners. They make an amazing mat as well. So we have theirs that we use during the game. Secret Weapon Miniatures with their columns. So we were able to put together enough stuff. You didn't need a lot, but as you started reading the rules, as you start getting a feel for the game, playing without terrain would make this a totally different game. Even if you only have 2 or 3 pieces of terrain, because the playing surface is so small, it's such a huge part. I mean, pushing models into pits is now Jennifer's favorite thing on the planet. So I'm assuming that every game she's going to come with this card and say, can we use this on every game we play?
Yeah, Houdini7 said that I want a huge pit to keep pushing your models into.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Yeah. We won't talk about the huge pit with pushing my big guys into. I feel like that's not fair at all.
Matchstick Man would like to know, what about a 2-player starter set?
Great question.
We have enough kind of broadness in the range that every time we talk about a 2-player starter set, it really hasn't made a whole lot of sense. maybe with the terrain kits coming in, that would be a good time for us to kind of revisit that. But really, there's so much choice in what you can take in Arena Rex that a 2-player starter, it just seems like you just pick up 2 of the single-player starters and a beast to taste, and an arena mat if you want one, and then you're good to go. If you want to start mixing in stuff, if you say you like the bull and one of your starters is Ludus Magnus, then great, use the bull for Living Hazard until you pick up something else or get deeper in. Right. That's kind of one of the goals behind our sort of loose faction system, is that anybody can take anything if they really want to, and so that doesn't really line up particularly well with a 2-player starter to us. But again, once we, if we get deeper into that terrain world, then that's a little more likely, perhaps.
I think a lot of people that are used to board games are really always interested in a 2-player starter, and so it's not an uncommon question. We get that a lot.
Yeah, I think that in our industry, one of the things that we've noticed over the years is that for games that aren't supported, very well in their friendly local gaming store, a lot of people like to have that single point of purchase where they can buy one and get people into the game with everything that came in that one box. And as we push people through our community to say, hey, if your FLGS doesn't carry this, get this, and this, and start teaching people on, open gaming night to do it. And so we inevitably get asked back, hey, does that company make a starter set? Which would you put together? And so I find it both. A lot of companies don't, like you're saying, and you have definitely made it easy because everything you need comes in the starter sets. 3 miniatures, fatigue tokens, cards, the whole 9. Print out the rules if you don't have the rule book, and sit down and play a game on anywhere, on the dining room table, the coffee table. I love the fact that it feels portable. I don't need a 6x4 table. So that part I really understand. I think that there is some validity to the ability under one checkout item, let's say, to be able to have everything you need to go then teach your friend how to play, to do this, and then to build off of it. Because you do have such a flexible system. I think that's amazing. What else we got?
Another question from Ray Silver. Any plans for cultures outside of the norm for gladiatorial settings? Aztec, Maori.
Shut up. Yeah.
Who tapped our phones?
Just say yes. Yes, next question.
We've made this look completely scripted, right? You guys are not helping. These are supposed to be random questions, chat. So the answer is just yes. That's all we get from you.
Say again.
Is the answer just yes?
Yep.
Okay.
I told you you're playing. You don't do the whole thing.
They got to make surprises last.
And then really just comment, Matchstick Man loves it. He said he backed the original Kickstarter. Already has like 30 models.
30 models. Holy hell, you're making us look bad, Matchstick. We don't have 30 models here. Although the next models that we're going to start painting and playing with are the bigger ones. A lot of people asked after the stream, what other types of models were involved. We pointed a lot of people over towards the store. And then the amazing things you can do with the Gorgons, with the animals, all of the creatures in the game bring a whole nother layer to it. So we'll definitely be talking about that as we do our review after this interview. So if no other questions?
One more from Ray. Any plans to release a different version of any of the Kickstarter exclusives to those of us late to the party?
Oh.
Sure.
I wouldn't describe it as a plan, but it's
we do. We're a little cheeky on that one. It sort of broke my heart, the idea of never having that Kickstarter exclusive mini available to anyone. So when we go to cons, she's there to buy. That's the one mini we have is Luke Bangs one. So it's still exclusive in a sense. And then, usually on our company's, we call it our company's birthday, the Ides of March. So usually on the Ides of March, she's available on our store. So it's still kind of exclusive, but you'll be able to get them.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's cool. That is a good way to do it, because you don't want to make people mad that, oh, it's just available to everybody, I'm not special anymore, but it still becomes special. So that's good stuff. Is that it?
That's it.
Well, guys, thank you so much to Walker and Nick for joining us. You guys have been great through this whole process. Nick hanging out with us in chat, Walker joining us and talking about the business. Anytime we can get you guys on here when you got new stuff going on, we'd be happy to have you. The game has been great. We're going to go ahead and do our review. For those of you out in chat land or watching on YouTube, please make sure to check out Arena Rex. If you guys want to give us the website.
ArenaRex.com.
It's easy, right? It's super easy. Go there. They've got the store. You can get all the miniatures you need. You can get all the info on the game that you need.
One more.
One more? They're sneaking in a question at the end?
Matchstick Man, how do I get local organized play support started?
Oh, another great question.
One more time.
Local organized play support. How would one go about it if we've got an individual that wants to bolster the game in their area? Are there tournament support packs? Are there plans for that in the future, if not already?
We do have an emissary program where folks can run demos or events officially. We don't really have a tournament pack fully laid out yet. We are nearly there and are kind of finalizing the details of exactly what's going on there.
That's like a month or two away.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good though, but it's in the plan. So
So,
it's good.
yeah. The event at Gen Con was sort of a final run for some of that stuff to lock that down. Email me directly, Walker at Red Republic Games, and I can give you some more details. If you want to get started as an emissary, or someone who is interested in the program, and we'll go from there.
Very nice. Capturing that. Fantastic. Well, guys, thank you so much. We've taken up a lot of your holiday weekend Sunday. Much appreciated for joining us and doing this with us. We will definitely be in touch in the future and do more paint-alongs and do more talking and hanging out for sure. So thank you for joining us. Thank you, chat, for all the great questions. We look forward to talking to you again some other time. Thanks, guys.
Awesome. Thanks for having us.
All right. Good stuff from all of them. Let's, why am I seeing that be that way? Get rid of that. There we go. All right, gang. Great job. Thank you so much. Good questions from all of you guys, and a great interview. Walker and Nick have been fantastic throughout this whole process with us, allowing us the models to get going and the ability to do things like the Tribune paint along. Nothing but the most respect for Red Republic Games and what they've got going on. And with that, I think what we want to do is get right into what we think about the overall game. Just go in and pull no punches here and see what we can give you guys as kind of our final review. And I'm going to let you start. I've been doing all the talking today, so you get to talk.
Well, I think that we really talked about it a lot already, that it was just so easy to understand. And for me, not playing a lot of games, that made a huge difference. So...
Well, I noticed that, and we talked about it a lot. If you are just joining and seeing this VOD or just joining us live today, make sure to go back and check last Sunday's VOD. It's available over on YouTube. It's also here on Twitch in our videos section. Well, the video section hasn't been working the last couple of days because Twitch is doing all sorts of crazy wonky stuff in the background. But you can definitely check it over on YouTube as well, where we actually played the game. And I think you'll get a real good sense of what I saw in that Jen, who is not a traditional tabletop gamer, she's not used to these things. We drug her kicking and screaming into this world. And you just got it.
Yeah.
I mean, you got it. From when we played we kind of did precursor rules walkthroughs as we do on the show before just throwing dice. We don't want to be completely ignorant of the game systems when we show you guys live. But I think in a very small amount of time, you picked up nuances that even I didn't see because I wasn't looking at your cards and wasn't there, but you're I mean, you got it. You knew what one miniature was supposed to do with regards to how the other miniature acted and things like that. And that's a rarity, right? Even games that you enjoyed like Malifaux, not as it takes a little bit more effort, right?
When we played Malifaux, I feel like I was asking more questions.
Right.
Probably like, what do I do here? And this one was easy for me to be able to say, oh, I know exactly what I want to do because I understand what's going to happen to you.
Oh, as she pushes my big dudes into pits, this woman. But and I that has value beyond words, and not to make it seem like it's dumbed down, because Arena Rex is not a dumbed down game. No. Much to the contrary, like we were talking to Nick and Walker just a minute ago, they being tabletop miniature game lovers kind of have that same mentality that I don't have enough memory space to put a plethora of rules in my head for too many game systems, but I want to play more game systems. And so they've generated, I think, the perfect balance in tactical need and necessity. You really have to be thinking about how you move and position in this game, which in a lot of games is not as important. Even though there isn't a quote-unquote back arc for models. You can't backstab somebody and get bonuses. Models get to fight in 360 degrees. But because of terrain placement, because of how other models move you around the board and throw you into pits and, whip and pull you in and all of the abilities that happen, movement has almost more of a bearing in this game than any game I've played before. Yes, every miniature game, you get close so you can shoot or closer so you can charge, and movement is always important. But in this game, it takes on a totally different nuance because of the fatigue system. Because if you move into a great position but you're fatigued, that position doesn't look as great anymore. And if the opponent, is the one that made you fatigued when you weren't expecting it, and they don't suffer from fatigue, all the deal that we saw when we played our game. And it was a game, and is a game, that leaves me thinking about all the other things that could have happened. Not just, next time, I won't put this guy out front. Yeah, there's that. But it's more so that even with the way I played, had I just done this, move first rather than attack, then I could have had a totally different outcome because of the tactics involved. So again, very, very simple rule set, very quick to glean. I think that the importance of that is something that we as gamers miss a lot until we're at the point where our brain is full and we just say, I just want something I can just sit down and kind of mindlessly play. It's not a mindless game, but it feels like you can do it without too much effort and still have a ton of fun. And we finished in how long did we play?
Yeah, it doesn't take a long time.
45 minutes, an hour we played to get a game done. And that was a starter game with 3 models in the set. And we played the Ludus Magnus versus the Morituri starter sets and used them straight out of the box. No fancy stuff added to them. All the materials were straight out of the box. And it was amazing. Absolutely amazing. So we like to talk about games in our reviews, starting with just, concept and hobby, the models themselves. What do you think about the models?
I thought they were cool. I mean, I don't know. What do you mean? Like what they can do or how they look?
No, just how they look.
Oh, I liked them.
The aesthetics of the game in general.
I liked it.
Right. And you're not like a super Gladiator fan.
No.
You ever seen a Gladiator movie? Scraps is a boy dog, right? So so the models are fantastic. Uncle Touchy painted up our Morituri set.
So I don't know.
And I painted up the Ludus Magnus, and the models, the resins, the combination of resin and metal are fantastic. The resins didn't take too much cleanup. There were not bad mold slippages. There was a little bit of resin flash across the mold line, as is expected, but they clean up very nicely just with a simple hobby knife. I didn't have to use any filler on mine. The way that the models go together as far as the gluing of joints, the attention to detail on the mold making is pretty good. Models go together where armor plates intersect with skin, so you have a natural dividing line so that when you glue it on there would be a line on the model anyway. We saw on the Tribune with his arm that was upraised that he had a dividing line across his bicep, but there was a bracelet across his bicep there that would give you that hard line. So whenever I look at models and I look at design, it's not just the overall outcome, is the model cool looking when it's done? There's also a hobby aspect to it. How frustrating is it to put these things together? When you get them put together, how frustrating is it to prep them for painting and such? And these I would give a thumbs up to. I think that they did an excellent job with their resins. I think that as they move forward in the future, that process will only get better. So not a lot of cleaning. I know that a couple of users experienced some issues with bubbles in the resin for the Tribune, but we didn't see that in ours. Obviously, that with resin on endpoints is a little bit of an issue sometimes. But I think overall the models are fantastic. On the table, they perform well because they're big enough to discern what's going on. They are not heroic scale miniatures, but they have very good features to them, so you can still see a lot of detail on the table. The board for Arena Rex is very constricted compared to other games. Infinity, where we play on a 4x4, other games that we've played on 3x3, 6x4s. Arena Rex is on a 2x2 the way we played it. You can go bigger. But our Arena Mat by Mats by Mars is 2x2, and the playing surface on that, here I can tell you, I think the playing surface is 20 inches diameter that we were playing in this ring. And so in that, I really like the fact that they chose to go with a little bit larger scale miniature because you see everything, right? You're sitting here, you're involved, that narrative carries along. You're not reaching for that model clear across a 4-foot table away from you and feeling a little bit more disconnected by doing so. Everything's right here in your face. The details are great. So from a hobby aspect, I think thumbs up. I think it's great. Rules, I think you guys already know where we stand. If it gets the blessing of Jen as a newbie gamer, I think that it's literally a game everybody should be excited about. We have on stream started talking in terms of because we get asked every week, nearly every stream, hey, what's a good game to get my insert, friend, family member involved into tabletop gaming with? I don't want to invest the money in 40K even though we like it because it takes tons of money to buy an army that's valid to play with. Things like that. Thank you guys for all the follows, by the way, while we were doing the interview. We were not able to make call outs for that, but much appreciated. Welcome to the family, guys and gals. So I think Arena Rex right now is at the top of our list as far as you need to check this game out. If you have got people in your local area, maybe part of your D&D group that have not really transmitted over into tabletop wargaming yet, I think this is a great game to bring anybody. People from outside tabletop wargaming entirely, people that might be big 40K players, big Infinity players, other game systems, but you're excited about it and you can show them, hey, for not a lot of outlay and not a lot of brain power, this is a game we can play that only takes an hour. So, I know around here, Monday nights are our local game night, and we've got guys that can't make it for the whole game night, me included. Sometimes I just go have dinner with the guys because I'm too busy in the studio. This is a game I could literally pack up, take there, and in very little setup time, because there's not a ton of terrain and not a lot of table space needed, play a game and still feel like I got to have fun on game night and then go out to dinner, because I could lay all this out, roll dice, have fun, done. And so just for that alone, I think its value jumps above almost, I'm going to risk it and say every game on my list right now.
Hey, somebody likes us.
And that's a big thing. We reach out and touch a lot of games here. So thank you for the follow.
Well, and Ray said that my impression of the game is especially important because I do have a limited background, and if I can grasp what's going on and can tactically stomp someone with heavy wargaming background, I think it speaks volumes for accessibility of the games.
Yes.
And I agree.
Yeah, and that's exactly the point we're trying to make.
And I read the little book on a plane, and then just talking about it, I got it right away. So I feel like I didn't have to. It was very straightforward.
Yeah, whereas we sat down with Malifaux, and we'll get to see Malifaux on the channel later on too. But we sat down with Malifaux and we walked through the steps of playing and pushing the models and doing the tactics and the things, because there's a lot of this follows this follows this. Malifaux is not what I would call the hardest game on the planet. It has a pretty easy rule set, but then when you put all of the individual models into the fray, they all have so many skills and things. And you see repetition, but you have to get used to that repetition to understand what smite does and what this does, because it might be a word you see on multiple cards. It's going to take you a while to really put it in your brain. That's what it is. Here, like I said last Sunday, I found myself not wanting, but looking at my card thinking, is there more? No.
Yeah.
Really? What we just did is right? Fantastic, because it makes you feel like you're missing something because it happens so smoothly on the battlefield. You're like, I think
Did I do that
I think
right?
I just
That
pushed you
seemed
into a
too
pit and
easy.
killed you,
Yeah.
you know? And it's like, is that right? We look at the
That
rules.
was the
Yep, that's right.
surprising
That's how it
one. It's
goes.
like,
All right.
oh, that was
It's
fast.
fast and bloody. Fast and bloody. People are going to die
As
quick.
Arena activity would have been.
Yeah, and we talked about that last Sunday, right? That I think that part of the narrative, and we keep saying this word narrative. If you're into tabletop war games, like most of you are, or if you're watching this and coming into this world for the first time, when we say narrative, we mean kind of the immersion, the feeling that you get. You know, with video games now, with VR and staring at a big monitor, and you're flying a spaceship or doing a first-person shooter, it puts you in that scenario. With tabletop war games, we're looking for games, the games that get our highest marks are the ones that put you in that same feeling, that you feel immersed in what the game was trying to present as a story to you. And I think Arena Rex, almost better than any other game I've played ever, does that because it's fast. The rules are easy and don't take you off of the table into a rule book to figure out what's going on. Your first couple of games for sure as you're learning, but then bam, you know, you're in there, you're playing, you're rolling your dice, you're moving your guys, you're thinking about what they're doing, what you're doing, and you're there, and then the game's over. Everybody's dead, you know, or you're alive and they're dead, hopefully. Didn't work like that for me. You know, so that immersion is what I'm talking about as part of that narrative. It plays into it. It makes you feel like this is a very good representation. However, you know, 100 million times removed a game is,
Right.
you know, from gladiatorial combat because it is fast. There's not a lot of, we thought going in there'd be a lot of positioning early where it might be slow. Nah, it was literally run
Right
right
in
into the
there.
gut,
Yeah.
you know, and start fighting because the board is so constricted. You're not going to get away. People are going to get you. And so it works really well. So from a rules perspective, I think, both thumbs up? I think
Definitely.
there's just no contest. Hands down, one of the best rule sets we've seen ever. So kudos again to Red Republic for doing that and coming out with a rule set that I think matches their own expectations. We heard Nick and Walker say right to our faces during the interview that they wanted to make a game that didn't take up a lot of headspace and you could do quickly and have a lot of fun and still walk away not feeling like you played, you know, Trivial Pursuit, right, or a board game where, yeah, it was fun when you did it, but you put it up on a shelf for months until the next time you have friends over next year and maybe you pull it down again randomly. I would take this game out all the time. I would literally find myself taking the Arena Rex stuff to game night every single Monday and playing a game because I feel like every game will be different. There's the repetition is only in the setup and then rolling the dice and everything can have a different outcome. So yeah, kudos to them. Great game, great foundation for a system. And as we heard, as they add more factions, they've really taken the standpoint of letting the rules grow through the individual cards, which gives them more of a narrative. Each individual character can have new things that come in that add to the game because they have a special ability that has never been seen before. And typically then alters the entire landscape of the rules behind it. Right, because now this person can this person can climb out of a pit. That would change the entire game,
definitely.
right? If you came, I mean, I'm not saying that's happening, although we were pretty good at crystal balling what they were coming up with. But you can imagine something as simple as a character that, you know, the first time this character is pushed into a pit can bounce back up or something, right? Cat-like reflexes. And so then that would change your whole way of playing because I'm used to pushing people in pits. And now that doesn't work so well against that guy. So again, I feel like they have kind of an open sky for development on this. And we mentioned it from the historic aspect of Greco-Roman culture is not limiting them at all. They can put whatever they want. They mentioned other races, you know, Ray and everybody asking, and they gave us the sly, yep, you can expect more, but they're not ready to tell us what it is. But I think sky's the limit for them. They can come out with, you know, new factions, things that might not have even ever been really seen in the arena. As far as races across the planet and things could definitely be there. Cultures from far off South America, you know, could be in here if they wanted to, and I don't think it would disturb the narrative at all. You can imagine slave ships coming in with people from all over the planet randomly, so I think literally sky's the limit. So good there. From an availability, we like to talk about the business and the marketing behind the game as part of the overall kind of rating that we give it. And I think that even though Arena Rex is a small game, Their ability to distribute quickly through their own store is definitely a thumbs up. Their store is very easy to navigate. It's very easy to find. They ship everywhere. It may not be the most available product for you locally yet. I know that they have mentioned that they're working on how to distribute and get it further out there. It's still a growing company, and they're doing all the right things, I think, there. But support them at their store. They have great shipping, great product fulfillment going on out of Red Republic. So I think that it's, while not the best distribution chain, not available everywhere, still very easy for you to get. I know that a lot of you guys went while we were painting and while we were discussing and while we were playing the game over the past 2 weeks and loaded up the shopping cart on arenarex.com and now have miniatures in your hands. So, I think that will only get better. So, again, I think that gets a thumbs up. We've heard the way that they're handling their business. I think it sounds like their business acumen is focused on making sure that they can keep providing really good stuff for us and not just what we see out of some creatives that don't really have a good mind for the business. I feel like these guys not only have got the creative on lockdown, but that the business side is going to grow for them very well in the future, and we hope to see a lot more from them. So overall, I think you guys know what the answer is. Buy this game. Literally. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. Go straight to Arena Rex. This is the kind of game that this is, and that's a rarity that happens. Yeah. There's a lot of games I love, but this one is one that I won't put down. So good stuff.
Higuaini said 2 hours ago I was at a game store and saw the game for sale.
Nice, fantastic, awesome. Good. Yeah, and that's the thing. This is a game where if you do not see it in your local gaming store, if you're interested in it, pick up a starter box, paint the starter box up, pick up 2 so that you can get your friend or get a friend to buy one, and then go play in your local gaming store on open gaming night. We say this time and time again. For the games you like and that you're interested in, invest in them. Get a friend into it. We have a lot of our viewers that buy a 2-player starter set not knowing who's going to play it with them, and then they paint it and they take it to the store and they say, let's get a game. I got this game I want to show you. Become that ambassador. We just heard Walker say to email him, walker@redrepublicgames.com, and see if you want to be part of their program to help grow this game in your local communities. So they've already got the right things in place. Go to your gaming store, because one thing I can guarantee you, as game store owners see cool stuff being played in their store, they're going to want to support it in the best way possible. And with a game like Arena Rex, it's not a huge outlay of stuff. A few starter boxes for each of the factions is not going to break the bank at most local gaming stores, and it's going to be able to introduce something that might also bring revenue to them later on. So as gamers, never be afraid to be that starting point, that jump off point for your gaming store guys, especially if you have a rapport with them. A lot of us, as we go into our gaming stores, talk to the owners because they're there. It's not an industry where the owners gallivanting around in the Mediterranean all the time, right? They're usually there very hands-on, paying attention to what's cool. And I've seen even like the most staunch, like 40K game owners, it's always support, or War Machine game owners, that's always support, turn an eye towards something cool that they saw that people were having fun with. It's contagious. People smiling, throwing dice, having fun, laughing it up. Other people come and ask. You've done it. I've done it. I've walked up to tables and been like, what is this game? This is cool. So do your part too, and help games like this grow. That's what we're here for. That's what this community is built around, is making sure that we spread this hobby love out there and make sure that when we're excited about something, that we give you the tools to go be excited about it as well. So,
and when I was on the plane reading it, the guy next to me is like, what game is that?
Oh, that's right. That's right. Yeah, she had an engineer sitting next to her on the plane that was asking about the rule set. And he didn't know the game, but knew about tabletop gaming, which is pretty cool. Yeah. That he could recognize on a understand, it's not like you're sitting on the plane with, monster rule book. Yeah. So,
just a little book there, and he was able to tell that it was for a game, and
that's awesome.
Yeah.
It's a small world, but we can help bring it together by going and pushing these things out in our own way. So, Piss, what's going on? Debating. We are doing an overview of a game called Arena Rex. We just got finished. If you want to go back and watch the video after we're done with an interview with the developers from Red Republic Games down in Austin, Texas. Walker and Nick joined us to talk about the game and its development. Over the past 2 weeks, we have been going through the process of painting the miniatures, playing the game on the table, and then we do our final review, and it just got glorious thumbs up. So Arena Rex, again, it'll be in the show notes on YouTube, and we've mentioned all the links during the channel here. So I don't think there's anything else to say. Great game. Buy it. Buy it now.
Yep.
Don't stop. With that, let's see what else we got. Have we missed anything in chat?
I don't think so.
I feel like we're caught up with chat. Chat has been being awesome today. Salty England, what's going on? You missed the days of World of Tanks. Well, this Thursday, we've started doing Fuse After Dark on Thursdays. And this Thursday, I might actually play Tanks. I haven't decided what game I'm going to play, but I might get forcibly pushed into playing Tanks on Thursday. We'll see. We'll see. That make my blood pressure get higher playing Tanks on Thursdays.
I don't like it when it makes you angry.
She comes in, she goes, "Why are you so angry at this game?" I'm like, "It's just the way it works. Just understand it's PvP. It works." So the next thing we want to talk about here is what's coming up in the next couple of weeks. The next game after Arena Rex we want to be talking about, of course, is going to be I think we're going to be talking about Wild West Exodus, I do believe. So let's get that screen up. We can talk a little bit about Sunday. Yep, it's Wild West Exodus starting this week. So we'll be painting some miniatures from Wild West Exodus during the week. And then next Sunday, we'll be doing an intro game with Michael. Uncle Touchy will be back in town. He has married his friend. He performed the ceremony for his friend.
Ceremony of his friend and his friend's new wife.
Yep. So our very own Naked Puzzle Basement has been off performing a marriage ceremony for some friends back east in the Boston area, and that concluded
Reverend
yesterday.
Touchy, we call him.
Reverend Touchy now. He'll be back on staff, and we will be playing some Wild West Exodus next week, and then, of course, painting through the course of some this week, and then a lot of Wild West Exodus next week as well. And so stay tuned for that. Another great game, another skirmish level game from Wayland Games now. It used to be a property held actually by the guys at Battle Foam here in the States, but it got purchased by Wayland over in the UK, and they have been turning around the rule set. And this month, we're expecting some new rules. We're going to be using the beta rules, but we're trying to get in touch with them and get the timing right. They're swamped right now with all of the con creep that goes on right about with their new rules coming out, new models. They've taken a lot of the old resin sculpts and pushed them into plastics, which is going to be really neat. And kind of a really neat 180-degree change from what we just saw with Arena Rex, and that now we're going to be working on Wild West, American Wild West, that has kind of a funky technology, alien technology feel. So think Cowboys and Aliens type game. Amazing game, great models yet again, a lot of steeped in history, but very alternate history, like a weird war game. You've got your Wyatt Earps and you've got your Doc Hollidays, but they have like power armor and guns that are pretty crazy. So really neat kind of alternate Wild West feel. It should be a lot of fun. So stay tuned for that next Sunday.
Stuff already has it ordered.
What's that?
He already has a 2-player starter for
Wild West Exodus?
Exodus on order. Never done a Western game before.
That's awesome, and and it's it's kind of a thing you don't see as a narrative in tabletop gaming is Wild West. Even on its own, you can imagine doing the Battle of the Alamo in miniature. I can imagine that scenario. You do it with 40K, has those types of narrative scenarios that come up that are like the last stand, and the Western kind of historic sense has lots of ability to do this. And I love Western movies. For me, it was easy. Spaghetti Westerns, it was like done deal. Clint Eastwood, give it, I'll play it, whatever. And then you add in aliens, and you add in Native Americans that can transform into Wendigos, and you get all sorts of mysticism in there. Cool. And so it has some really cool stuff without being too far-fetched. I mean, it is far-fetched, don't get me wrong. I mean, we got, alien technology, and I think Wyatt Earp has got, I forget, Jesse James, I think, has got mechanical arms. So it's got some really cool stuff in it, motorcycles and crazy. Think
really cool.
What was the Wild Wild West movie with that came out a long time? You probably haven't even seen it. This is bouncing right off of her. You people, my people, know what I'm talking about. The Will Smith Wild Wild West movie that came out. It's like that. It's like steampunk Wild West with big, animated monsters and things like that. So it's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to have fun with that. The calendar right now says that the next game after that is Bushido. That is wrong. We're going to be altering the calendar and pushing Bushido back further into October. I will have a update, but I believe that the game we're going to be replacing that with is Relic Blade, another fun game from an independent manufacturer that is a nice, fast, and furious tabletop that should be a lot of fun. It's more of a fantasy knights versus orcs kind of a thing, but the orcs are like legit pigs. So it's like Pig Warriors. It's a lot of fun. So the miniatures are great. We're going to be focused on that. The Bushido guys, the reason we're pushing that back is we intend on Bushido being our next paint-along game, and they are moving warehouses right now. So they're in the UK. They're moving. They're growing and having to move out of their small location into a bigger one, and they won't be ready for, I think, another week and a half to be shipping products. So rather than try to play that game where we sneak in a miniature at the last minute, a lot of people have said they really wanted to partake in the paint-alongs and that they didn't have enough time to get funds in order to buy the miniature and stuff. So we're trying to give you like 3 to 4 weeks planning time to be part of that. So we're going to push Bushido back a little bit. Not a big deal. We got another cool game bringing in to take its place, but Bushido will be coming late October. So hang out for that too. Alrighty, and to finish up, I want to talk about some hobby love. We have got some amazing stuff that happened along the paint-along week with our Tribune models. And we're going to take a look at some of that. So I just wanted to run through real quick and show some appreciation for all of the people who joined in. For those of you that don't know what the paint-alongs are, we basically offer a model for sale on our store at slowfusegaming.com. Ahead of our stream schedule, where we then allow viewers, you guys, to get your hands on the model. In this case, it was the Tribune from Arena Rex, this guy you're seeing right here. And that was offered to us by Nick and Walker at Red Republic ahead of their release schedule. So we actually had you guys had this model in your hand prior to Gen Con, where they released this model. So that was awesome. Big thumbs up again for the support there. And then we spent all week painting him, teaching some really cool techniques on flesh tones. We really did the scary stuff on this. We did skin and we did armor in a non-metallic way. So we didn't use any metallic paints. And those are two things that I think most painters have the most difficulty with, is finding ways to paint things as if they look like metal, even though we're dealing with plastic miniatures. And flesh tones are always a burden for people. So we started out with two of the hardest things, and you guys knocked it out of the park. This initial picture is from Uglove. This is Nick Potaraki, who just joined us in the interview from Red Republic himself. He is the Arena Rex, one of the Arena Rex guys, and he followed along and did an absolutely knockdown job on this. The skin tones that Nick was doing and that everybody was doing turned out fantastic. So we got some work from Nick. Here's Jack Dempsey, also tuning in, doing some amazing work. Great skin tones. These guys literally, I'm probably as proud of your work as hopefully you guys are, because just seeing some of the skill and the ability to make the techniques that we applied on the stream come true as it was happening live, kudos, big thumbs up. Thank you for that follow. Here we've got Houdini 7 and his interpretation on the skin. Again, these are from day one as we went through and we're focused on flesh tones. You see a lot of differentiation model to model, but everybody really nailing the shadows and the highlights as we pulled them up. Abel Frey, again, coming in and show us good definition under the chin. The whole goal here was showing how to get skin shaded and highlighted without it looking like that standard paint base coats, dump a bunch of wash on it, highlight back up from wash, which can leave you with very dark transitions in the muscle definition, the lines in between the muscles and things that can kind of look inhuman. It doesn't really feel real all the time. Our hands and things don't really do that. You know, the lines between your fingers don't turn ultra dark. So we were showing how to do that without getting splotchy results and to get really organic textures on skin, and everybody just absolutely nailed it. Great stuff. Nicholas 314, Nick Pie as we call him. Nick Pie didn't even do this as a live paint-along, I believe. I think that he was watching the VOD after the fact in most cases, which is true of most of these guys. I think we probably had half and half. I think we probably had 50% of the paint-along model guys joining us live on stream, and then we got a lot of updates where people would come home and watch the VOD, or for people that, East Coast European guys would watch the next day and still post up their whip. So not being able to ask live questions... Right. And to get that feedback, well, yeah. And they still did a fantastic job. So great stuff. Nick Pie again with the reverse shot. Then we started moving in day 2 into armor, and here's Houdini 7's first take on his bronze cuff on the arm there. Good stuff. Nicholas, same thing. Starting to add in that nice yellow and bright bronze color on there. Ray Silver doing his job. Ray, I have to call Ray out specifically. Ray, one of our big supporters and viewers. Ray, I think, was sweating bullets, right? He jumped into this with both feet, and was sweating bullets because he's never done non-metallic metals in his life. And so I was like, it's not going to be that bad. It doesn't matter. You're going to do good no matter what. And he just in chat was like, oh, I'm going to slit my wrist. This is so horrible. I don't know what I'm doing. And I want to have you show this was his first attempt. And somewhere in this lineup, I don't know how soon it's going to come, but we'll show you where Ray went from that first attempt on the cuff. And he kept bitching the whole time. He never stopped complaining about it. But I'm going to show you how much better he got just over the course of 2 streams. All right. Here's Uglove Nick again from Red Republic, doing an amazing job. Right. Nick nailed it out of the park. He said he had an art background, but he was enthralled in the way that we paint on the channel. If you're new here, we have kind of a different technique than you'll see in most places, in that I paint in tremendously thin layers, multiple layers, lots of controlling of how that glazing goes on in order to get you that color and final content that you're looking for on the model. So good to see people trying out new techniques.
Ray Silver said, bitchin' is my MO.
Bitchin' is his MO. Abel Frey says he doesn't have the colors that we were working on, but he used the scale colors and the paint rack app and absolutely nailed it. Got the nice tarnished with a little bit of green coming in on the bronze. Great look on the metal from Abel Frey. Again, Ray Silver, after he did his fixing, a little bit better contrast there. Great stuff. Now that I've talked it up, I want to get to Ray's secondary picture there. Nick, again, also starting work on the helmet. You can start seeing the metallics growing out on the helmet that he did. The helmet was one of the hardest things to do just because of the dimension on that. But here's Ray. All right, so Ray, after bitching all that time about how he was hating doing the non-metallics, comes in with this and starts getting a very, very cool tarnished bronze gold look going on here. So kudos to Ray. You knocked it out of the park. Each and every one of you did. Houdini 7, again, showing off some great contrast with the skin, and then going in, just dog daring, going in on the helmet. Again, because of all of the radius on the helmet, the different points of attack where light can hit it and shine on it, one of the tougher things to learn to paint, right? A cylinder, you can learn a cylinder. A sphere, you can even learn a sphere pretty easy. But when you take cylinders and spheres and squares and flat planes and throw them all into one particular part of a model and have to have all of it work together in unison, that's one of the toughest things, trying to get your eye dialed in. And that's why we really love this model, for the techniques that we were using. And you guys, again, everybody followed along flawlessly. If you are just hearing about this for the first time, you can always go back and watch the VODs for this. We will be putting all of the paint along VODs after we get them edited onto YouTube. But right now they're also in the video back section on Twitch, so you can see them there. Nicholas Pye, nailing the helmet. Helmet's coming out really nice. He's got his bright spots coming in. It's starting to look like shiny metal, right? Like dull, but still got a little bit of gleam on the metal. Great work. Ray Silver, starting in on the breastplate and absolutely killing it. Remember, Ray bitched the whole time. I don't get it. I'm horrible at this. He knocked it out of the park. Great stuff. For a first attempt at non-metallic metal, I couldn't have asked for better from any of these guys and girls that followed along with us. Absolutely amazing work. Just look at the shine on the shoulder here, right? He's selling that metallic shine perfectly. Great stuff, guys. Houdini 7, starting working on the white cloth, the toga. Great dirty shadows on here. We wanted to paint this white as a, not a clean, crisp linen, but a heavy, worn but washed, showing the pride of the office. And so in the middle steps here, brightening it up, he's really catching all those shadows in the full. Great sculpt from the guys at Red Republic. Studio 77 painting, following along in the VODs and doing the skin and working up. He's got his base layers for the metals here. Great stuff. Ray Silver coming in with a different angle on the helmet. Look at this. I'm going to tout you up, Ray, just because you bitched the whole time. Got his armband fixed, matched the helmet to it, got really good shadows and definition on the helmet. Great work from everybody here. Houdini as he's brightening up his whites. The whole gang absolutely killing it. Done deal. So again, Thank you guys for participating and making our paint along what it was. I hope that everybody had as much fun doing it as we did. We will be doing plenty more in the future. Some of them will have more models to offer to do the paint along. Some of them will be models that you can find at your local gaming store. You won't even have to buy them from us. Some of them you might actually own, depending on the game system that we're working on. We just kind of randomly pick a cool model out of, hopefully once a month we'll get into it to where we can do a paint along. I don't promise that right out of the gates. It might be every other month as we start out, as we get the schedule attuned to it. But right now we're having a blast doing it. And as always, when we do paint alongs, those color sets will be up on our store as far as what colors we plan on using to let everybody get seated in and figure out what they're going to do with their own paint collection, add to it as they need to before we get going. But only thumbs up. I mean, literally only thumbs up to everybody that participated. Some of the best work I've seen all you guys do yet, and you only have up to go, so it's going to be on absolutely awesome. I love it. Bitchin' is my MO. Houdini7, thank you for participating. That was great. And guys, that's it. That wraps it up for Sunday. Nice, short, and sweet. Hour and a half. Thank you, Jen, for hanging out with us and playing games and giving your 2 cents in on it. The big thumbs up for Arena Rex. Thank you to Nick and Walker for showing up and spending a lot of really good quality time with us, letting us know and get an inside glimpse into Red Republic and the Arena Rex development process. More interviews like that forthcoming from other developers if you guys like it. We will start giving you a little bit more heads up. You can plan some more questions, get some more interaction with you as you go. Let us know down below if you liked the interview, if you would have liked other questions asked. We can still get back in touch with them. So if you think you thought of something late after we already turned off the interview, just go ahead and put it down below or shoot us an email over to slowfuse@slowfusegaming.com and we'll get you answered. So as always, thank you so much for the support, all the new follows, subs, resubs, the whole deal, gang. You guys are nothing but great. We love our little internet family that we have here. Make sure to tune in on Tuesday as we'll be back painting at 2 p.m. Pacific right here on this same channel.
Grant Kendrill said #TeamGen.
Is that how we got to end?
Throw that in there.
Is that how we got to end?
Throw that in there.
Grant, I thought we were friends. I thought we was friends. That's it. You're dead to me. You're dead to me. All right, gang. Love your faces.
Love you guys.
Thank you guys so much. We'll see you around.